Hi, I'm Carson Beck, quarterback for Georgia. There's a lot of chatter about the top teams in college football. I mean, we rushed for over 2,800 yards and sacked our opponents 30 times for a loss of over 200 yards. Just saying. Like there's chatter about the top credit unions in Georgia, there's no doubt in my mind that the top credit union is Associated Credit Union, my credit union of choice. To learn how ACU can help you reach the top, visit acuonline.org. Associated Credit Union, where anyone in Georgia can live, bank, and grow.
Welcome to the Janelle King Show. I am Janelle King, and this is where we discuss kitchen table topics that are typically banned from family gatherings, but are absolutely necessary in order to have a strong republic. And I am so excited to have this conversation. For those of you who have known me, who has been following me, you know that I get super excited when I can talk to people who know what they're talking about. I get excited to talk to people who have their hands, their feet, their energy, their ideas, everything involved in their causes. And this conversation is going to be nothing less than that. We have Dr. Jon Bruchalski with us. Dr. Jon, can I call you Dr. Jon?
Absolutely, Janelle. Okay. Absolutely.
I think I just made that up, but I
like that. 35 years of taking care of patients. They made it up, and I'm good with it. I actually love it.
Okay, with Dr. Jon, thank you so much for coming to the show. And as you guys saw in the description, we're going to talk about some really hot topics. We're going to talk about abortion. We're going to talk about IVF. We're going to talk about what women's reproductive is and what it really is. And that abortion, because this is my take, Dr. Jon, abortion for me is taking away. So we're not reproducing. And we need to talk about really reproducing and what it means to be a woman and health. And so let's just start with your background. So Dr. Bruchalski, how did you get involved in this mission to help educate people on what's happening around abortion?
So, Janelle, I absolutely agree with your concept of what real health is, what real women's health is. And there's a fight for this right now, a battle going on. And I grew up in a wonderfully sound, very Christian family, Bible strong, prayerful, just integrated like into the community, caring about the republic. My dad was a school civics teacher. Man, we're Polish. My family lives in Poland and under the Nazis, under the communists. So we understand that you can grow and thrive in absolute repression, but a republic is something to be fought for and valued. And so they gave me these values. They instilled them in me fully. I mean, we went to the March for Life. We cared about, we took in people who needed to be taken in for a time. And lo and behold, just like Wormwood from the C.S. Lewis world.
Yes.
1 degree at a time, young lady, 1 degree at a time.
Yeah.
Well, it's good education. My dad trusted me to the Christian Catholic education from the 1960s to the 70s and 80s. The world was on fire then, Janelle, because of the sexual revolution and this new world of not only the birth control pill, but the war in Vietnam, and the republic is bad and we have to revolt. And women were really walking right with, lockstep with, the sexual revolution and the feminist revolution. And I learned my health care because I'm a gynecologist of 35 years. Women would tell their friends about the type of practice we run, and they send people to us. But during my medical school and during the first 2 years of residency, I fully embraced what it meant to be an excellent provider of women's health, which meant everything. So go ahead. Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt too much in this conversation, but I'm thinking about things as you're talking. I think we should talk about this, the feminist movement and how that is connected to the abortion message and what we're seeing. And I think it's important to add too, that Wormwood is a character in C.S. Lewis's book, The Screwtape Letters. And I'm actually going to use something from another C.S. Lewis book, Mere Christianity, where he talks about corrupted good. And I think that there's a lot of corrupted good that's associated to women's health issues and the abortion topic. But where do you feel that there's a direct link between the feminist movement and the abortion movement?
So the feminist movement from the late 1800s through the early parts of this society, Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood, the eugenics movement. But now it's about the foundation principle of the new medical ethics is patient autonomy. My body, my choice. And that creates a point of service medicine. It's not about the way of medicine. It's not Hippocratic. And it took the two patient paradigm. When a woman is with child, there's two patients for us OBs. Well, no, it's no longer that. It only becomes two patients when the woman, the mother, determines. So patient autonomy is the first step. Then we must have equality with men. Now, I believe this. I mean, I believe that there's equality, but we're complementary. We're not the same. When we talk about stress, men are fight or flight. And when you understand women's stress, the female brain, for instance, written by folks from like this, the West Coast, great universities, it's about tending or befriending. Even though cortisol is the same, DHEA is the same, thyroid's, there's a different mechanism. There's a different neurochemistry that happens, and there's a whole different way of approaching it. But when you have equality, then I need to have the third pillar, sexual revolution. I need to be sexually free in order to find happiness and joy, because it's predominantly sexual. And we need to have no responsibility, just like men don't. So we have to eliminate the pregnancy, which means eliminating the fetus. We can't call it an unborn child because it's built into human nature for moms to bond. Dopamine is there. Oxytocin is there in the woman. And we understand that in OBGYN. And yet we have to distance and remove the blockage. Children, rather than gifts, become sexually transmitted diseases. Fertility and your body is not that you were made healthy. Actually, you were made to be a slave to your fertility. And we use technology to do whatever we need to make that happen. So those were the foundation principles of the feminist revolution that my wonderful, like, once again, I'm a white guy, I'm a male, give me a break. I shouldn't be an OB. Well, no, when you listen to your patients, back in the day, I listened to them. Jon, I need abortion and everything else that entails. The hormones, the chemicals, the surgeries, the transitions, I need all of it in order to be fully happy and healthy. Okay, if that's what you need, I will do that. Because I wasn't an ideologue. I just wanted to meet my patients' needs. So I went to school, I became a resident. So I participated. I happened to go to the Eastern Virginia School of Medicine, where we were the home of the first IVF baby in this country, the test tube baby, 1981, Elizabeth Carr. That was done at the Jones Institute for Reproductive Medicine, Eastern Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia. I was there from 87 to 91. And I was fully involved as a resident in the contraceptive research and development, which included all aspects of reproductive health. And part of that was to learn first, second, and third trimester abortions, as well as help our great team of scientists and great doctors help produce embryos for their IVF work, and to help transition women to men and men to women, because the Johns Hopkins folks back in the day came to us. The Joneses were at Hopkins and came to us. We were in an amazing place of cutting edge, modern patient autonomy, equality, sexual revolution.
Okay.
And that's where I trained. And I was a part of that at the time. And that's how I got from one place to the other.
So basically, it sounds like what you're saying is a lot of women was brought into or bought into the feminist messaging because it made them feel like they could be sexually liberated. And in order to be sexually liberated, particularly during a time when there wasn't a lot of contraception, it will require you to have to find ways to abandon your fertility.
Correct.
Once you get pregnant, it's your liberation changes. And then they made it feel as though that was somehow daunting. And then you brought in all these women. There's two things you said that I want to touch on. You mentioned Margaret Sanger, and This is an argument that I have all the time, particularly as a Black woman. My disdain for Margaret Sanger and her strategies runs deep. That being said, what is your message to people who say things like, well, Margaret Sanger and the Planned Parenthood of yesterday is not the Planned Parenthood of today. They have different people running it. It's a different mission. What's your response to that?
Well, I can tell you that by understanding, there's a great book out there about the sacrifice, and it's about they now have opened the Margaret Sanger page, the library. And what's happening is that we're finding that her message at her heart was, we must limit the population of the world. Well, where has that gotten us now? We are underpopulating. Mm-hmm. There's a problem here because we don't have enough, on an economic level, we don't have enough people to cover social, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But at the heart of it was the deplorables. I'm using that word because she coined it. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't breed, because we will be, those who are blessed with a progressive way of thinking are going to be overrun. Mm. And so this idea of overpopulation, and with those people who are not as smart as we need to do something, but we can't talk about it personally because it's anathema to so many folks. What are you talking about? Helping folks and helping educate, come alongside, accompany them. Well, no, she then co-opted the big bankers, the big thought leaders in the world, government, as well as corporations, mm-hmm. whether it was Rockefeller or whether it was our government. Mm-hmm. And slowly over time, their 100-year plan, their 50-year plan.
As always, I absolutely hate to interrupt a great conversation for a commercial break. However, I've got to give time to our sponsors and to those who make this show possible. So please stay tuned. You're listening to The Janelle King Show. This is Extra 106.3. I will be right back. Welcome back to the Janelle King Show. I am Janelle King, and this is Extra 106.3. Now you are going to be brought back into my conversation with Dr. Jon Bruchalski, who is a former abortionist, but he's also now a wonderful man who is helping women that are struggling with fertility and reproductive issues, while also advocating for those who are leaving the abortion world and coming into the pro-life side. Welcome back to the show.
Coming up on 100 years from Sanger, to have contraception and abortion and the rest is pervasive through the system, in medicine, in faith churches, in politics, in sociology, and to do it throughout the world. Yeah. That's why we have International Planned Parenthood. Well, what happens is, why are most clinics today in poverty-stricken neighborhoods? And it's that subgroup that I know we were there for folks who were underserved, but they already had 1 or 2 children. They had no money, so we sterilized them.
Wow.
And at the time, we were doing it, and most of our folks were of color. Why is there a higher percentage of African-American women aborted? Why is it that there's medical disparities with preterm birth, breast cancer, go down the line? Once you begin to see the data coming in, there's a real association between abortion, breast cancer, mental illness, preterm birth. And all of a sudden you begin to realize that, yes, we don't talk about those dark, because remember, abortion is always in the shadows. They're trying to say, shout it out now, be proud of it. Well, because it used to be abortion, safe, legal, and rare. Well, we're already moving. It's shout your abortion. It's a sacrament. It's sacred. And you know what? It's life-giving. In fact, it's more pro-life than those pro-lifers. Well, you can't change human nature that way. Mm-hmm. And that's the real issue.
Okay, so you said so many interesting things. And I want to make sure I go back to one point that you made. However, when we're talking about this whole just the Black woman versus the white woman, I think there's a misconception that, Black women, because they're aborting at a higher rate, that they are also preaching this message to their families, when in fact it's the opposite, but they're targeted so much. And I think that speaks to what you were saying about being placed in lower income communities and basically making it seem like abortion is something that's hopeful, when in fact, the data shows that I think over 80% of women who have abortions for whatever reason experience depression at some point in their life, and anxiety and other negative emotions that come with doing something so drastic. So that leads me to my question around another talking point that they often share when it comes to messaging to women, and that's the my body, my choice. You talked about that, and you kind of mentioned a little bit how, as an OBGYN, you don't see it that way. Can you elaborate on that topic just a little bit?
Well, you talk about my body, my choice, but there's actually two patients. There's another patient within the pregnant woman.
Do you see it that way when y'all are doctors? Do you approach it as two patients?
Well, that's the paradigm that needs to be returned. What happens is, I get it. I believe that women, women need to be able to improve, to live in and thrive in their body. They're a body, psyche, and spirit all put together. And rather than body literacy, teaching them about their body in the most, like, fertility is something that is very healthy. That's a sign of a functioning human body. When you talk about that to the woman, rather than saying, well, we need to shut off your brain with chemicals or place things in your, we've gone green on that. We can help educate you through body literacy and to actually help you collaborate with your body without having to put all those chemicals and plastics and other things into your body, get injected, to actually educate you about your body. So that's one of the areas. But when a woman becomes pregnant, my body, my choice, pregnancy means there is another human life inside of you, another human body growing inside of you. And it may even have the sex that's not yours. It may be a male. Genetically, XX and XY are there from the beginning, and that code is life and is in life, meaning once you give shelter and nourishment to that zygote, it's you were once one of those. And so what happens is that when you talk to people about my body, my choice, I understand that. But at some point, the maturity becomes, no, I actually care about the other. There's all these levels of happiness. And ultimately, happiness is knowing that it's my body given for you, that you actually sacrifice for someone else. And I can tell you that all the men that I know who are sad about the abortions they were a part of, fathers give their life for their child, not the child giving their life for the father. And that's where the post-abortion, once again, Janelle, I'm not speaking from theology. I'm speaking from biology, embryology, science, but I'm also speaking from 80% depressed. Absolutely. Your question, your identity of that percentage is spot on. Why would that be? It's because good and evil run through each human heart. And for me, even though I've been on both sides of this issue for 6 years of my 40 years, absolutely pro-choice and performing abortions and providing everything to liberate you from the chains of your fertility. For the last 34 years, it's been life affirming. And when you open yourself up to that dynamic for full integration, men and women regret this decision.
Right.
And you have to meet them in a safe space. And allow them that interaction, because remember, the Planned Parenthood way would be courageous. Tell your parents who are repressive and old school, no, I had an abortion. It's good for me. Shout it. It's okay. human nature. Because once again, from OBs,
Yeah.
why don't if abortion is so good, why don't more doctors do it? Only 7 to 17% of all OBGYNs do abortions.
Wow.
Most keep silent. Most refer it out. It was never voted on by us. It was kind of brought from the top down. And once again, when they talk about access and why we need abortion pills now, why is that? Because even though there are centers across the country, very prestigious, who are trying to create a complex family planning, some places that want to attract young people to do the surgical abortions, why do you think it's graying out? Because I did it, and it's brutal. It hardens your heart, steals your soul, darkens your mind, and it creates sadness, hardness. And it's not just about, now, and that's why states now are fighting over abortion as health care. And by the way, we're going to have to coerce states through legalities and rights issues to help us do it. And by the way, we're going to allow nurse practitioners and midwives and PAs and medical assistants and just knowledgeable folks. Why do you think we've gone to abortion pills and telehealth? Well, as the states begin to question and grapple with these issues, the people voting in the republic, all of a sudden we can bypass this now, and we can use less care, we don't do any surgeries without fully informed consent. We're not supposed to talk about dismemberment abortions or abortion surgery. It's an abortion procedure. We're not supposed to talk about that the heartbeat you hear at 6 weeks is not really a heartbeat because the heart's not fully formed. It's the same semantics we used when we brought on abortion in the 70s and when we brought on IVF in the 80s and 90s. And once again, unwantedness. It's heartbreaking when you have an unwanted pregnancy and you're stuck with this decision. When a woman wants a family and a child, I understand. IVF is a technology that really can give you a baby.
Yeah. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. I don't want you to jump ahead because I have questions still about abortion.
Go ahead.
I am ready to get into that one though, just like you. But there's something you said that stands out to me. You said the definition of a pregnancy is that there's a life growing inside of you. However, the message that's being pushed is that it's a clump of cells. It's not a person. It shouldn't be seen as a person. I know you've mentioned, your perspective on, just sacrificing yourself for that life. But from a medical perspective, would you agree that it is just a clump of cells?
No, not at all. I mean, as soon as the egg and sperm unite, if you can imagine, everything is there already built into the genetic code for differentiation, that the different parts, the placenta is already a part there, and the different parts of the human person are already there. And over time, if allowed to grow, so what happens is that we have bought into watering down. Up until recently, everyone understands that an XX and an XY are the foundations of what it means to be a part of the human family. Human parents and a new life inside of you that is genetically different than the mother. But we have, because there is such a hard distinction of, at fertilization, there is a new, unique human life. Well, now we're arguing about personhood. Now we're arguing about gender. Now we're arguing about what does it mean to be a woman? The fungibility, maybe it's consciousness. And that's because all those concepts are removed from science and brought into other areas. What happens is we've lost that perspective of the true science that says at the moment of fertilization, there is a distinct, complete human life. So that when Janelle and Johnny were
Kelvin.
conceived, bingo,
That's
that was us. We all passed through that stage.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the color of your skin or the size of your body. You know, I used to be 360 pounds.
Wow.
Well, what happens is that I'm now 200, but I'm the same. I used to be a little husky boy. Well, I am this, you know, and you can just go back and go back. And yes, life, we can draw lines in different places, churches, theology, sociology, well, no, we all can agree that a distinct, unique human life begins. And that's why it's so important. But because we've lost that sense and we've adopted another sense, we're trying to fight the way we were gifted with our biology.
It's like you're fighting against human nature, right? It's like you're fighting against the desire to parent, the desire to create, the desire to be a part of the reproduction process of this earth, while at the same time trying to maintain your own personal plans and, dare I say, selfishness. But that is kind of what it feels like.
Oh, absolutely, Janelle. And when you listen to the stories on both sides, there are so many patients that I have, because I'm a gynecologist, I see women.
Yeah.
They absolutely oftentimes come in at 35, 36, 37, 40, 41, 42. They just have found the right partner. And they want to start a family. And they could be progressive, they could be traditional, but at some point, the time is right. Now, if you separate desires from biological reality, you end up with waiting until you're older, and then it becomes much harder to conceive. And it's a delay. Or if you had a sterilization early in your life because you weren't in a good relationship, and it's understandable why people do this, but all of a sudden when you finally find that great partner, that great spouse, and you want to open yourself up to a family, the system does not encourage you to either undo what you've done, because in the end, people regret. There's some incredibly wonderful, powerful feminist voices that have written and shared their experience in media about why have I shut off my brain, say with contraception, or why have I waited and I bought the lie that it's all going to be okay and and now it's maybe too late, and there's this regret. Or the incredible number of people who are coming to us from post-abortion regretting that choice.
Right.
Men
as you were talking, I heard the entire feminist message, right? Even this concept of, putting your career first, that particularly for women, that is a huge decision that you're making, because your body is not going to wait on your career. And but this is the messaging that's going towards women, a messaging of you can do it without a man, you can figure this out. I'm seeing more and more women go through IVF and use sperm donors in order to get pregnant and conceive, and there's no family unit other than the mom. And we're starting to see this as something that is being praised, and it's really not something that I think is a part of natural order, but it's definitely connected to this feminist movement. And they push IVF on you so much and so strong. I shared my personal testimony where I have my own fertility challenges. And instead of offering me other options, which I found there were, the immediate response was, your only option is IVF.
IVF, correct.
That's your only option. And the number of women my age, or just not even my age, but my generation, that is struggling to conceive, it's beyond me. And I wonder if this is a concerted effort to push IVF. That's kind of how I feel.
Well, right now there's this popular book about good energy, and it's talking about how medicine identified diseases, and then big pharma comes in and has the answer for those conditions. So back in my residency, I realized that the vast majority of the literature, the scientific literature that supports all of this technology, from A to Z, was paid for by big pharma, is covered by organizations that are there at the cutting edge. This was the way it was in the 1920s. It's the way it was in the 1950s. And it's now the way it is in the 2020s, that we are being paid to use technology and drugs and surgery to fix a problem that was created by the medical industrial complex. Or, all of this, it feeds each other. And then you become connected. You have to stay on, for right now, what is the way we're taught? Go on hormones because it's good for you from 12 to 50, and then go on more hormones from 50 to when you die, and only come off when you want a child. And from cradle to grave, we have answers for you. And when it becomes the only answer you have when you have a sick baby in your womb is to abort it, because it's merciful and mercy killing. So those are the eugenic abortions. And so, we approach it as a perinatal hospice, but that's a little bit later. What I would tell you is that it's that same, we saw it happen during COVID. Only one way, there's only one way. You can't, because then that becomes mis and disinformation. Well, why do they go directly to that? It's because the human person comes into this going, can you please listen to me? I'm not interested in poisoning my body. I'm not interested. We all have a certain freedom and dignity for human flourishing. But when the top level, say in my profession, the American College of OBGYN, ACOG, tells us, in the old days, it was, we respect your freedom to say no. Then it was, we respect your freedom, but you really should refer. Now you're seeing language in law. You must provide access one way or the other, or else. Why is that? Because at the depth of the human heart, patients, when you give women options to hold and keep their child, to spend a few more minutes with their sick child, to not want to use chemicals that distort dopamine and norepinephrine and estradiol, and they choose it. And so, once again, I'm a Polish guy. My family lived under the Nazis and under the communists. When the argument fails at the most deepest human level, because we are created for love and to be loved and to give love. I would say that in a general way, because we hate disease, but we love patients. I would say to you that when the system, that the people in charge realize that you're not following, it becomes coercive. That's why when women have abortions, I didn't have a choice, Jon. I had no other choice. My family was going to connive me. It's because the whole system shames you and tricks you and lies to you. And then you wake up one day and go, oh my God, I'm even in a darker place. So it takes such courage for people like yourself and folks. And once again, when we
as always, I absolutely hate to interrupt a great conversation for a commercial break. However, I've got to give time to our sponsors and to those who make this show possible. So please stay tuned. You're listening to The Janelle King Show. This is Extra 106.3. I will be right back. Welcome back to the Janelle King Show. I am Janelle King. This is Extra 106.3. Now you are going to be brought back into my conversation with Dr. Jon Bruchalski, who is a former abortionist, but he's also now a wonderful man who is helping women that are struggling with fertility and reproductive issues while also advocating for those who are leaving the abortion world and coming into the pro-life side. Welcome back to the show.
There's no opportunity to have real conversations over coffee or over friendship. It's what we talk about. Yeah.
That's a great point. When it comes to, you mentioned, just how there's such an emotional aspect to being the doctor who is performing these abortions. And I know that you are working and you have worked with doctors who are moving out of that are now seeing themselves as pro-life and not wanting to participate in this abortion experience. What is your message to them, given the fact that there is so much pressure to do these abortions, to support these causes, to manipulate women into believing that this is something good for them? What is your message to doctors that are looking for an exit, so to speak?
So it really depends on where they are in their training. So when you find a despairing, when you find a physician or a midwife or a nurse practitioner who has gone through their career in that system, but realizes something's dead inside or something is wrong with me, my stress level, my alcohol. Remember, most of us who did abortions, we're post-abortal, whether we admit it or not. All of those.
What does that mean? You said post-abortal?
Well, when you perform abortions, it deadens the soul. That's why 80% of patients, remember, we're the provider, we're the practitioner. The person came to us and said, I want an abortion. That's the patient autonomy. We provided the service whether we really believed in it or didn't believe in it. Like me, I did it for 2 years as a resident, first, second, and third. Dismemberments of, 1-2 pound babies. We call them fetuses. And that takes a toll on one. So if you have an older person who's been in that area and they just are seeking to stop, you come alongside and you say, oh no, I've been there, I've done that, I understand. Hey, let's talk. There's another way. And it may be really better for you and your family. And oh, by the way, are you sleeping? Are you drinking too much? You accompany people. And ultimately, if there's some sort of spirituality, where's your heart on this? Now, if they're residents, we talk about it as, because once again, I've been given the blessing and opportunity to talk to young medical students and residents across the country over the last 25 years, on and off through various organizations. And I want you to know that many folks will say, oh no, abortion is the loving option. Abortion is the way to go. And believe it or not, today, because words no longer matter. Life, we have no idea when life begins. Well, life begins whenever the mother says so, or whenever sentience happens, or I pick some other line than fertilization. And I believe I can't push people on it, but others have to have this option. Okay, I understand. But when you're there and they're saying, I'm going to do abortions because I believe it's a good thing, I would simply ask them, go do it. And if you can find that you can build your career about doing something like that, either in a full-time clinic work where you do it all the time, but can you imagine, just like my schizophrenia with my 2 patients, the book that I wrote, I'm telling you that when you only perform, you protect the pregnancy and stop the preterm birth just because the mother wants it. And in the very next room, if you have someone who doesn't want it with the same diagnosis, you get rid of it. All of a sudden, the rift that rift that goes through the human heart to determine what is good, what is not, what doesn't sit right with us. It comes through our heart. So I say to them, go do it. Listen, when you get into your residency, go do it. Yeah. We need more abortionists. Why? Because very few are still there doing surgical abortions. That's why we've moved to telehealth. That's why we've moved to chemical abortions. That's why we've moved to full on, let's get abortion through the state constitutions so it'll be forced on you. And let's follow what ACOG and other organizations tell us we must provide. It's hard to have access because it's a brutal procedure. And I can tell you just anecdotal stories of young students who come to me afterwards and go, hey, Jon, I tried it and I can't do that anymore. Is there a better way? Because I think I'm now, rather than pro-abortion or pro-choice, I think there's something about being kind of more pro-life, but I have a lot of exceptions and I just know I'm torn. I get it. It's a safe space to talk.
Yeah.
I'm here to just share with you, as so many other good organizations are, what our experience has been, that there's a better way. But then when you're with younger women, you talk about body literacy, because all the defense mechanisms that occur in a young woman occur long before their first non-wanted pregnancy. My parents, they really don't want me to have sex, or if I do have sex, I need protection. Well, Planned Parenthood is the place to go. And if I'm really in one of those homes I'll be so punished by my mom and dad, the shame, the control, the choice. Once again, you start there to begin that rift between the family. And then you don't, we're going to focus on the saving babies and motherhood. It's hard to use that language with people because it doesn't resonate.
No.
I can educate you about your body and it'll be empowering. And I can show you, like I say, at Harvard, somebody said, oh, you're just another fanatic. I said, no, I've gone green. I am such a pro-woman. I'm not going to pollute your body with hormones, plastics, chemicals, insertions, injections that you have no control over. It turns off your hypothalamus. So you can be sexually liberated. If you want to be sexually liberated, I can educate you about your body. Well, but it takes communication between you and your partner. And if you're not communicating, there's a problem there. Human problem.
There's something, okay, so two things. One, when you were talking about the young girl and all of the emotions that's around what she goes through if she finds herself pregnant, and now we have this abortion pill that you can get through the mail, and we're talking about young girls not even have to tell their parents. It used to be a time where you have to say, Mom, I'm pregnant, I made a mistake, can you help me? And at least mom can come in with some more wisdom and help. But now you're getting it through the mail. And what I like to say is to these parents that are.
I so hope you've enjoyed the discussion thus far. Unfortunately, we have to stop it here for the sake of time. However, if you want to watch the entire interview and catch all the rest of the details, feel free to go to my YouTube channel. Just simply search The Janelle King Show. While you're there, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you don't do anything else, please subscribe so that I can show YouTube that I am putting in the work and that there are people who are listening to my show. And most importantly, so we can share it and more people can hear it and it can reach the masses. So thank you so much again for listening to the show. Until next time, stay unafraid, stay unapologetic, and never stop seeking the truth. This is The Janelle King Show right here on Extra 106.3.
Associated Credit Union's Prosper checking account earns more than 40 times the interest rate paid on the average checking account nationwide. That's more cha-ching in your checking account each month. With no minimum balance or monthly maintenance fee, this is the perfect checking account for adding more cha-ching each month. Associated Credit Union is here to help you live, bank, grow, and cha-ching. Certain terms and conditions apply. Learn more at acuonline.org/prosper checking. Federally insured by NCUA.
At Wade Ford, discover great prices, flexible finance options, and top trade-in values. For a limited time, get $50 off service. Plus, with our mobile service, an expert technician will come to you. Visit Wade Ford today or online at wadeford.com. Wade Ford, Atlanta's Ford dealer, where your satisfaction drives everything we do.
Receive $50 off your total parts and service bill of $250 or more. Not valid on previous service purchases. Must mention offer at time of service purchase. All financing on approved credit expires 9/30/24.
Hi, I'm Mark Beckham with Atlanta Ramjack. We specialize in only foundation repair. What is foundation repair? Foundations sink or settle. These issues need to be addressed. It only becomes more costly the longer you put it off. What is the biggest cause of foundation problem? Either poor construction, inferior site preparation, or weather. Drought causes cracks in your foundations. If you see any signs of foundation issues, please contact us at atlantaramjack.com.